Hello everyone. We are graduate students of San Jose State University and we are here to demonstrate our application which is called Project Tracker Pro Multitenant SaaS application. But before getting started with it, let's just look at what multi-tenancy is all about. Well, to put it in very simple words, it is like an apartment wherein many tenants cost efficiently share the common infrastructure of the building, yet have walls and doors to achieve privacy from other tenants of the same building. Let's look at the formal definition. Multi-tenancy is the fundamental technology that clouds use to share the IT resources cost efficiently yet securely. Well, for our application, we are going to be focusing on three types of tenants: Waterfall, Scrum, and Kanban. For this demo, we have divided the application into four modules, namely Introduction and Architecture given by me, Surbhi Sharma, Waterfall and Kanban demonstrated by Prashant Waykar, Scrum and Database Schema by Balaji, and Deployment and Summary by Abhinav Kadam. Well, what is the application all about? Well, it is like a project management tool which lets the user interact with the user interface, displaying all the three types of tenants: Waterfall, Scrum, and Kanban. And the user can edit their respective tenant activities and eventually view the progress of their projects in terms of the tenant that they have selected. For example, for Waterfall, it is going to be the percentage completed. For Scrum, it's going to be the estimations of completion date using burn down charts. And for Kanban, it is going to be the progress of boards and cards on the basis of three identifiers: completed, incomplete, and yet to start. So overall, Project Tracker Pro gives the user the benefit of experiencing all the three tenants from a single user interface and get visual progress reports. Moving further, let's just have a look into the basic architecture of the application. This is the basic application architecture. Well, the user can interact with the Project Tracker Pro from his browser. The user logs in and can then select any of the listed tenants, for example, Waterfall, Scrum, or Kanban. Once he selects the tenant, a request is formulated and sent to the Angular MVC controller. The controller does the processing and invokes the business logic layer made of Node.js. The Node.js business layer then interacts and fetches the metadata and sends the package to the controller, which then dispatches the view, which is finally rendered to the user's browser. Further, once the user fills in the required information about his project and clicks on Save Data, another request is going to be made and is going to be sent to the controller, which then invokes the Node.js to grab the data filled in by the user and save it to MySQL. The MySQL that we have used is the cloud instance of MySQL deployed on AWS RDS. Thus, as you can see, the metadata is going to be held in MongoDB, basically Mongo Labs, which is the cloud instance of MongoDB, and the user data is going to be stored in MySQL. So this is all about the basic architecture, and the rest of the demo will be explained by my teammates. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Balaji from Team 15. I'm going to explain you about the multi-tenant features of our application and give you a brief walkthrough about the first tenant of our application, that is Scrum tenant. What is multi-tenant application? Multi-tenant application should be able to support any client or tenant with minimal or no changes. The three key features of multi-tenant applications are flexibility, isolation, and seamless integration. A flexible client should be able to accommodate any tenant to create their own schema or fields with minimal changes. Isolation ensures proper data isolation across users so that users are guaranteed to read their own data across all the times. Seamless integration ensures clients to integrate with the application with minimal changes. To achieve this multi-tenancy, it's effective to have a multi-tenant database design. While there are a plethora of databases available, it's hard to choose between SQL and NoSQL databases. It was a hard decision to make. SQL databases has their own advantages of integrity and data isolation, while as NoSQL databases provides flexibility and dynamic schema creation. To reap the benefits of both the databases, we followed the hybrid model, which ensures a combination of SQL and NoSQL database. Mongo database, which is a NoSQL database, allows dynamic schema creation and customization, which is an excellent candidate to store the tenant schema. Each tenant has its own document and has its own set of key value pairs, while as NoSQL database is excellent for storing user-generated data and preferences. Here is how our database structure looks. The Mongo database has a document for each tenant. Kanban, Waterfall, and Scrum has its own document with key value pairs. Each tenant resides in its own document, and all the fields are represented as collection under the document. Whereas user-generated data are split across two tables, users and user underscore data underscore table. Users table is the master table which contains all the user information such as user registration as well as credentials. It also contains the tenant ID to user ID mapping to identify which user is associated with client. While as user underscore data table contains field ID and field values with parent field ID and module. Field ID and field values represents the fields or columns that belongs to each tenant. So each tenant will fetch their own schema from the Mongo database and saves the values into MySQL database into key field ID, values. The module represents the overall grouping of the fields, that is whether the fields belongs to task or story. The parent field ID is required to maintain the hierarchy of the structure. Since the field ID, value is represented as a flat table, it's necessary to have a hierarchical structure to view and save the data. Apart from the database design, it's necessary to have a consistent UI design to support multi-tenant applications. We used Angular JS and Node, which is awesome for creating multi-tenant clients with the help of Angular templates. It's very easy to create multi-tenant capability for any application with minimal changes. Here is how the flow looks. Angular UI will have its own control and express routers. So the tenant specific schema is first read into the client, and the values are filled into the application by the users, and the values are automatically populated by the Angular two-way binding, which is an excellent feature which automatically binds data in two ways. The data entered by the users are saved into the MySQL database as user generated data. The application flow is ensured by Express.js routing with Angular controllers. So based on the tenant selection, Angular controllers will pick the correct template corresponding to the tenant, and it will render that templates or HTML files according to the tenant chosen. It's demo time. Let's see how the application uses the multi-tenant features of our database and able to seamlessly switch across multiple tenants with a flip of a drop down. Here in this demo, we're going to show you the Scrum tenant first and walk through to the other clients in the subsequent slides. Let me log in through the application. After the user logs into the application, he can select his tenant as preferred choice of tenant. Let's assume this user selects Scrum as his preferred choice of tenant. To proceed further, Scrum will have a backlog, stories, and sprints. Backlog being a parent container will have many stories, and sprint can consume these stories. Let's create a new backlog. Just have the client as SJSU and rate as $12. A new backlog has been successfully created and is available in the list of backlogs. We can able to view the backlog and you can able to create a new story under the backlog. Let's create a new story. Let's have a story status as yet to start and resources Balaji, points as 10 points. These points denotes a effort being allocated for this story. Let's create a new story and it will be available in the list of stories. Now let's move to the next level. Let's create a new sprint. Sprint duration is 10 days and size is 5. Let's create a new sprint. Sprint has been successfully created and is available in the list of sprints. You can able to edit this sprint and track progress using the View Progress tab. View Progress tab is able to edit this sprint. Let's change the sprint name to 1 and let's save these changes. Let's refresh this page and see the updated. You can able to see the new name for sprint, and View Progress button is used to track the progress of the sprint. It generates a burn down chart of which the sprint start date to end date is the x-axis and total versus actual points as the y-axis. This burn down chart is able to estimate the sprint status at a particular point of time. Let's close the sprint and let's select a new tenant, Waterfall. My teammates are going to explain you about the next client, Waterfall.
Hi, my name is Prashant and I'll be presenting to you a multi-tenant SaaS application. Let me walk you through a demo of our customized project management tool for your organization. Let me show you the capabilities of our application and how we can help you achieve a multi-tenant architecture. Let me log in with my credentials. I click on login. I enter my credentials. And I hit on login. Login is successful, and then once after the login, we land on the home page of the application, which provides us a preference to select one tenant from Waterfall, Scrum, or Kanban. Once we select Waterfall as our tenant type, we get an option to create multiple projects, populate and schedule tasks, resources, and view the status of the project. Now let's create a new project. We fill in the project name as project 2, fill in the description. I select the start date as 6th and end date as 31st. I click on create project. The project has been created. The UI components which are rendered on this form are fetched from a fixed schema, which is stored in the Mongo database. Let me show you the Mongo schema. So this is the MongoDB connection code which we have written, and it is using field ID, field name, a module, type, and value. Let me show you the schema for the waterfall module. We are using field ID, field name, and having value as project name, module as project, type as text, and value is initially empty. Moving back, we'll now create multiple resources. Now I create a resource named Prashant with email ID as prashant.waykar@sjsu.edu. I click on create. The new resource has been created. Now I click on view tasks. Okay, so I can create multiple tasks for this project. So I click on create task. I enter the task name as task 1. I select the task start date as 6th, task end date as 7, and enter the task duration as 12 hours. Task resource, I'll assign it to Prashant, which I had recently created, and I'll set the start as project this task status to in progress. I hit on click save. The task has been updated successfully. I click on project 1. The task now shows up. I create one more task. Like I create it as task 2. I select the task start date as 7th and task end date as 8. I keep it as it is. I assign it to Prashant again, and I change the status of this task to completed. I click on save. Just refresh this. Both the tasks are now showing up. To view the progress of this project, I click on view progress. Okay, so here the task there are multiple tasks which are in either in progress, completed, or yet to start. So the status of this application is like the progress of this application is around 60%. So we get a graphical representation by clicking on view progress. I'll now demonstrate the next tenant type, which is Kanban. So I go back to the home page, I select the next tenant type as Kanban. Over here, the Kanban system usually starts with a board and visual cards that represents items in your product backlog. On the board, you place the cards into columns that represent their current step in the workflow, ranging from new to complete. The visual nature of the board makes it easy to find out what's already been done, what's in progress, and what's going to be started next. So as long as your team keeps finishing work, updating the work status, and keep delivering features to the customers. Now let me walk you through the demo of the Kanban module. I'll enter the board title as title. I enter the description and I click on create. And the board has now been created. Created a board with name as title. Let's create multiple cards. I'll create on title. It will list the cards which were initially inserted. I'll create a new card called card 3 with description. Card priority as high. Card lane I'll select as completed. I'll assign it to myself. Card size as 12. Then I'll select the start date as 6 and the end date as 21. I'll save the changes. I'll click on title to list all the cards. I'll click on view progress to check the status. It's showing that 65% of it is completed and 35% of it is in progress state. So this is the demonstration of the Kanban tenant type. The further presentation will be done with the other teammates. Thank you.
Hi guys, this is Abhinav and I'm going to explain you about the deployment of our application. We have used AWS Elastic Beanstalk for the deployment. AWS Elastic Beanstalk is nothing but the PaaS service that is platform as a service provided by Amazon Web Services. So with AWS Elastic Beanstalk, we can quickly deploy and manage applications in the AWS cloud without worrying about the infrastructure that runs those applications. AWS Elastic Beanstalk reduces the management complexity without restricting choice or control. We can simply upload our application and AWS Elastic Beanstalk automatically handles the details of capacity provisioning, load balancing, scaling, and application health monitoring. Let me now go ahead and show you how to deploy the application on Elastic Beanstalk. This is the web page for Elastic Beanstalk application. Um, we can see all the deployed applications here already. Now we go ahead and create a new application. Let's choose some name for our application. Let's say Multitenant app team 15 and let's give the same description. Okay, now we are given two environments to choose from. One is web server environment and another is worker environment. Let's choose the web server environment. Out of these, I want to select the existing IAM instance profile that will give me all the necessary privileges to perform the operations. Choose next. Then we can select some predefined configurations. Since our application has the technology stack as main stack, we use the Node.js pre-configuration, and for our application we need only single instance. Let's choose that and say next. Here is where we upload our file to the application. So let's go ahead and first make a compressed zip folder for our file. Okay, so as we can see, the node modules.zip is created for our code base. So let's get that in our code. Let's upload that file here. All right, so as you can see, the upload has started. Okay, so here we have to give the information for the environment. So let's say 15, and let's give the same description. You can also check the availability for the environment name that we have chosen. It says green, so we can go ahead and use this URL created. Let's say next. We are not going to select any RDS instance, or we don't have to create any environment inside VPC. So let's just go ahead. So here we have to choose some of the configuration details like instant type, T1 micro. We have to select the key pair, and email address is optional, and rest of the configurations we keep as default. And let's just go ahead. Even the environment tags, we need not select anything. This page gives us the review of all the parameters that we have selected for different configurations. It says the application name, the description, the environment tier, instance profile, etc. So let's just review that and go ahead with launch. Now launching this application is going to take some time. Meanwhile, we can see the logs of the current process of launching. In this table, it says create environment is starting using Elastic Beanstalk as Amazon S3 storage bucket for environment data. So this is going to take some time. We can also see the configuration selected. It's 64-bit Amazon Linux server running Node.js. So let's wait till the application is completely deployed and the environment is launched. Now we can see the application is already deployed on the environment. We can see all the logs here, successfully launched the environment. So let's now go ahead and check the application URL. There you go. This is nothing but our multi-tenant SaaS application deployed on the Elastic Beanstalk. So go ahead, enjoy, and let us know if there is any feedback. Thank you.